Okay, so thank you for joining us again. Thank you for anybody who might be watching the YouTube video, prepared lovingly now by Garrett. We had a transfer in our YouTube technician.
Wow.
So thank you all. Thank you everybody on ACI and Gather, of course, and thank you everybody who's watching the live stream. So the title of my talk today, Life in the Age of Miracles. I really think we are living in the age of miracles, and for us, of course, in Miracles students, this is a very interesting time. And I want to acknowledge it. I want to give witness to it, because our discipline is being talked about everywhere. It's being talked about everywhere. And it's being talked about positively. And of course, this is because of the presidential candidacy of Marianne Williamson. And there was a debate on Tuesday night, and she was again on the debate, and she attracted a lot of attention by things that she said. She only got a few times, really, at the microphone, not nearly as much as many of the other candidates because of the way the debates are structured. But the times that she was there, she said certain things that caught the imagination and the attention of a lot of people. Now, there was a time when these types of ideas, and maybe the ideas of A Course in Miracles, would probably be labeled, by the mainstream media as kookie or trippy, and there's been just a little bit of that, but not that much. Mostly, it's been very positive press that she has gotten, even though people still continue to say she really doesn't have a chance at getting the nomination. But I always remember they were saying the same thing about Donald Trump 4 years ago. He doesn't have a chance of getting the, but isn't he interesting? Yeah, so, the same kind of phenomena is kind of going on with her. People think she's really interesting, but they, of course, say that she doesn't have a chance. But she says these things and they attract a lot of attention. So I do want to, of course, state right now that I am not recommending that anybody vote for Marianne Williamson. This is not a presidential endorsement. I'm not making that. We actually can't make that. And I'm not making that. And I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but I'm talking about this strictly from the basis of an interesting phenomenon in the A Course in Miracles community. She criticized people over just arguing over policy, and she goes, the yada, 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 and then people said, she was yodeling on stage. Somebody said, she was yodeling. She just said, all this yada, 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 all this talk at the surface isn't really going to address the problem. So she criticized the endless arguing over policy, and if you watch the debates, they do that a lot. And after about 5 minutes of that, it does get really boring. It gets really boring. And then every time she would be up there, she said different things. And an interesting phenomena afterwards was that the statistics show that her name was Googled, the highest Google search for any of the candidates on 49 of the 50 states. There was only one state that searched for somebody more than Marianne Williamson, and that was Montana. And Montana's governor, Steve Bullock, is running for president, I believe, right? So in his home state of Montana, more people Googled his name. But in every other state, all 49 other states, Marianne Williamson was the most Googled candidate. So you got to think that she's saying something interesting, and people want to know more about her. Yeah. So what were some of the things she said? She talked about the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. Now, if you don't remember this, there was this huge water crisis, still is actually, in Flint, Michigan, because of certain policies, and I don't want to get into all of that, but there's lead poisoning in the water. There's lead poisoning. They're covering it up, and they don't have the right kind of elected government because they appointed this emergency manager there. And so she said this. She says, "I assure you, I lived in Grosse Pointe," which, by the way, is a wealthy Michigan coastal area. What happened in Flint would not have happened in Grosse Pointe. This is part of the dark underbelly of American society. So she was talking about how, poorer people, the disadvantaged people, they're the ones that this kind of thing happens to. If you live in an upscale, neighborhood, this doesn't happen there, but it happens in black neighborhoods and cities that are predominantly with people who are struggling a little bit. And then she said this. This was the thing that really got a lot of press. And she's talking about all this policy discussion. And she goes, if you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country, then I'm afraid that the Democrats are going to see some very dark times. And that the fact that she called this dark psychic force, you know, first of all, we're hearing a presidential candidate on the debate stage, on the national debate stage, talking about dark psychic forces. And you know, and right after the debate, she got interviewed by Anderson Cooper, one of the, you know, the major CNN interviewer. Now, I saw her on the Anderson Cooper show like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was rather not particularly friendly with her on that, and he was kind of dismissive of her and challenging her a lot. But right after the debate, he was like in love with her. He was like so effusive and friendly and told her how great she did. And he was just like, he's fallen in love with Marianne Williamson. It took him 2 weeks, but he did. And then I think even more amazing, and these things just keep happening, is like on Friday night on the Bill Maher real-time HBO series, which I'm told gets about 4 million viewers, she was his featured guest. Now, a little bit of background here. You know, Bill Maher is a political comedian, political satirist. He's very well known, and he's very highly thought of. But he's, you know, like an out atheist. I mean, you know, he's really anti-religion. He did a documentary film in 2008 called Religulous. And it was the highest grossing documentary film in 2008. And the title comes from marrying the words religion and ridiculous. Okay, so he basically, his comment on religion, it's ridiculous. And I saw Religulous. I didn't particularly like it. I thought it was a little bit of a dishonest film. Because it was directed by that director who did Borat, and they tell people they want to interview you as a documentary. They wanted to interview all these religious people, and they give you the impression they're going to be making a positive film about the religious movement, and they didn't tell them what the title was. They gave them this other title, and you know, probably how it's worded in the agreement. They probably say this is the working title, you know, it could change. So people think they're going to be, these religious people think they're going to be interviewed and on this movie that's going to be about the state of religion in the world today. And then they're actually interviewed on this movie that's really making fun of religion. So I mean, that annoyed me a little bit. You could tell that was going on. That was the same thing with that film Barack, which was the same director. So Bill Maher is he's this known atheist. So Marianne Williamson is coming on the Bill Maher show. And so I've got a little bit of their dialogue. I'm going to read it. And this is what it said, like within the first minute of her walking on stage. And Bill Maher says, because a lot of your politics does spring from this former life that you had. I guess the life you'll continue to have if you don't win. And she kind of like rolled her eyes. It's based on this well-known book called A Course in Miracles. Marianne Williamson, well, my career for the last 35 years, I have given talks based on this set of books called A Course in Miracles, which has been referred to as a self-study program in spiritual psychotherapy. Bill Maher. That sounds like Scientology. Marianne Williamson got a little annoyed, really incredulous, and she said, how could you say that? Bill Maher said, no, it just sounds like it. I'm not saying that it is. And Marianne Williamson said, no, they're very informal here. And Bill Maher said, well, just when something is based on one book, that always worries me. And then you see Marianne, she kind of like pauses, probably asks for guidance in the moment, and she paused, and she goes, it is a book that is based on universal spiritual themes. It's not a religion, does not claim any kind of monopoly on truth, it has no dogma, it has no doctrine. It talks about love and forgiveness, and I think so many of the people who are students of A Course in Miracles come from all religions. And then she said, and even from no religion. She looked right at him, she goes, people like you. And she knew she had really scored. And she just kind of sat there and smiled. Was really pleased with herself. And And it took a little while but the audience started to really applaud. And eventually Bill Maher laughs at her as well, and then touches her on the shoulder. There was all this like touchy-feely stuff that started. Bill Maher started it, I didn't look. Bill Maher started, he touches her on the shoulder. And then Bill Maher says, I read that the author of the book, Helen Schuckman, said she took dictation from Jesus. Remember who Bill Maher is, not her. And Marianne, well, there's nothing in the book. And then she rolls her eyes. Oh, maybe she did. Maybe she felt that way. The book is not trying to get up on, and Bill Maher says, well, who would know better than you? And Marianne said, well, I'll tell you, the book is not, and Bill Maher challenged her. She goes, did she take dictation from Jesus or not?
Oh, that's good.
They were having
straight up.
And Marianne said, the book says nothing about that. The book does not try to get us to believe in God. The book does not try to get us to believe in Jesus. The book tries to get us to believe in each other. The book is about believing in each other and living with love for one another, which is the experience of higher power or God as people at home know. And Bill Maher said, well, we can't argue with that. So that was a pretty big statement from him. And Bill Maher said, one thing I liked about you in the debates, and I've said this before on the show, and Marianne interrupted, she goes, there was only one thing? And then they went on and talked about, things that she said on the debate. Now, when I looked at this interview this morning, it had just about 300,000 views. It's a 7-minute little interview. So, 300,000 views. It's only been up for a day or so. And remember, his show on an average gets about 4 million viewers. And I think about 300,000 views. We put up a video on YouTube. If we get 30 views, I'm pretty excited. That's 10,000 times more views than our videos get. So Bill Maher, you really got to get this. Bill Maher is this really known liberal atheist, and the people who watch his show probably resonate similarly. They may not all be atheists, but they're liberal, but many of them probably are agnostics. And A Course in Miracles is being talked about positively on Bill Maher's show, which is reaching millions of people who might never really respond positively to religion or spirituality. And for me, man, that is really living in the age of miracles. I just think that's amazing, that A Course in Miracles. And then, if you watch this thing, watch the little body language thing that's going on between Marianne and Bill Maher. There's just a real male-female classic flirtation thing going on with them, not like either of them was really hitting on each other, but they're being very familiar and very friendly. And then she finds several opportunities to touch him, and he's touching her, and they're just, and I gotta say, I've known Marianne Williamson for 28 years. I've never seen her like this. So whatever else is going on, this campaign has been great for Marianne Williamson. It's kind of like softened her up and made her more open and friendly. The criticism of Marianne was she was kind of like hard, all the time. And, and if you watch the Anderson Cooper interview that happened right after the debate, she gets all giggly and silly towards the end of it, and very light. And it's just like, I have not seen her like this. So I think she is absolutely doing the right thing running for president. It's absolutely the right thing for her, because she is having a spiritual awakening and a more of an embracing of the totality of herself and her softer side, and maybe her more feminine side, if you could say that. But just a certain thing is going on with her that I find really, really interesting. And this for me this is amazing, and this is the age of miracles, and I'm so happy for Marianne and proud for Marianne, if you can be that, and of course a miracle student. Not in an egoic way, just happy, right? I'm so happy and proud for all of us in the A Course in Miracles community, because our spiritual discipline is getting talked about all over the place. Reverend Peter told me this morning there was a new article in Time magazine that says something about New York Times that I hadn't seen. And of course they did a big feature article a couple of weeks ago. I talked about that. It's like every time I'm watching something. A Course in Miracles is getting mentioned and to millions and millions of people in very, very positive ways. And I think this is just part of, I don't know, what we're all manifesting. We're all manifesting this. You know, this isn't happening outside of us. This is something that we're putting out there in the world. So think about how connected and how accepting we are of this discipline, that we are now projecting it into the world in this kind of bold and open way. So I have always preached, if you can call it that, that the world, you know, will turn into the real world, will turn into this happy place. And I think this is part of it. And A Course in Miracles tells us that, I believe. It says, are you a spirit, deathless and without the promise of corruption and the stain of sin upon you? So the world is seen as stable, fully worthy of your trust, a happy place to rest in for a while where nothing need be feared but only love. So I'm always moving in that direction, that we're here to manifest a stable, happy place. And I see this as part of just the introduction of all these ideas into the mass consciousness is got to be part of it. Another place in the Course says, how lovely is the world whose purpose is forgiveness of God's Son. How free from fear, and how filled with blessing and with happiness. And what a joyous thing it is to dwell a little while in such a happy place. You know, the world should be this joyous place. We should be happy and joyful to be here. And this is a teaching from A Course in Miracles that hasn't gotten talked about a whole lot in the mainstream of the Course in Miracles discussion within the first 30 years or so. I mean, it was always about, the discussion frequently was about how insane and awful the world is. And yes, that teaching is in A Course in Miracles, but it's trying to show us that our usual way, our egoic way of looking at the world, that's what that produces. But with the new way of looking at the world, with forgiveness and love in our heart for all our sisters and brothers and oneness, then the world becomes this stable, joyful, happy place. And I think life in the age of miracles is about doing just that, and I think Marianne is doing her part in just that. Now, I take a little bit of, you know, I don't agree with everything she says, and sometimes I take a little affront with it. You know, when she says it is a book that is based on universal spiritual themes, it is not a religion. Well, you know, it's my religion. It's the church. It does not claim any kind of monopoly on truth. Okay, I'll go with that. It has no dogma. Well, you know what? It does have dogma. I mean, if you look up the definition of dogma, it's a principle or a set of principles laid down by an authority as inconvertibly true. So, I mean, you know, and it's kind of what A Course in Miracles does. There's an authority coming through and it lays down these set of principles and it says they're true. So, okay, so, you know, I guess you'd have to define dogma. And, you know, dogma has a real negative connotation. I'm sure she's referring to dogma in more the negative connotation of it. Same with saying it's not a religion. Religion more in the negative connotation of formal religion, but kind of is a religion. If you look up the definition of religion, it does have dogma. She says there's no doctrine. Doctrine means a belief or set of beliefs held and taught by a church, a political party, or another group. So, you know, there is a set of beliefs, and it is taught by the Miracles community and the Miracles teachers and the books themselves. So I kind of think it does have dogma and doctrine in it. Sorry, Marianne. But I really love what she said to Bill Maher, though, about that. It would, you know, even people who aren't religious, like you, because that actually is something that A Course in Miracles says. It says they come from all over the world. They come from all religions, and they come from no religion. So she's like resonating that idea. She said, you know, it doesn't teach the belief in God. Well, it kind of does, but it does say at the beginning of the workbook that you don't have to believe in God. So, you know, she was mirroring back that idea. And she was saying probably the perfectly appropriate things to say to Bill Maher, you know, the devout atheist on the Bill Maher show and preaching to the audience that was watching the Bill Maher show. So, I really just bless her and what she's doing, and I bless all the media attention, and you know, and she's handling it really well. You know, you gotta, you know, I think she's been trained for the last 35 years, speaking in public the way she does, and you know, being on TV and Oprah the way, I mean, she's ready. she was really ready. And I remember something that she said actually many years ago. She goes, if you want to be good people, she goes, you'll get a lot of support for that. Everybody wants you to be a good person. You know, to go back to school, to give up, you know, drinking too much, you know, to be a good, everybody says, but if you want to be a great person, people will tell you, who do you think you are? And, you know, Marianne Williamson is going for President of the United States. It's a pretty big, great deal. And so there is this knee-jerk reaction for many of us, even people in our own community, to say, who the hell does she think she is? Well, she thinks she's the holy child of God. That's who the hell she thinks she is. And she's following her guidance. And I can tell by how it's transforming her that it's the right guidance for her to follow. So I think we are living in the age of miracles, and there's no telling how much of a miraculous effect all this publicity and exposure to our spiritual discipline that we're manifesting out there is going to have in the world. That's my talk for today. Thank you.